Okay, students. So we will be covering up two topics today. One is force and the other is pressure. So we will begin with force. Okay, and Farida ma'am will join in for the second topic. Are you all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
pin yourselves to KitUKate Lab, the presentation version.
I'm pinned.
Okay, all right. So now, before we actually begin with understanding force and its types, I want you all to explain in simple words, give examples of force. What do you understand by force? You can
Force,
answer.
force is applying energy to something.
Applying energy to something. Okay. Anyone else? Come on. All of you all are supposed to answer.
Ma'am, ma'am, there is not only one type of force, there are multiple types of forces.
There are many types of force. Okay. Someone else? Okay. Others, I hope others are awake.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So, as Ayam said, force is applying energy to something. Now, when do you apply energy? Under what conditions do you apply energy to something? For
When you
example,
want,
if you have a car, if you are driving a car, you apply energy to stop the car. You apply brakes, right? So that is a type of force that you're applying, right? So due to application of force on a driving car, what happens? Car which is moving comes to rest. So if it's state of motion, I mean it is moving and it stops. When when the cycle is stationary, it is standing in a place, you apply force, you start riding the cycle. That means from the state of rest, it goes into the state of motion. So by applying force, what is happening? By applying force, either the state of rest is changing into state of motion or vice versa. That means objects which are stationary starts moving or the object which are moving come to rest. Okay. What is the second scenario when we apply force? For example, when we play football, okay, the ball is coming towards us with some speed, okay, and we kick the ball. So what happens when we kick the ball? The ball starts, either it starts moving a little faster in the same direction, or it starts moving in a different direction. So by applying force, we are also changing the direction of motion, right? So that is the second scenario. First scenario was when something goes from stationary to moving or moving to stationary. That is the first scenario. The second scenario is when something is moving and you either increase or decrease its speed or you change its direction. Okay, so that is when you need to apply force. What is the third scenario? For example, you have a lemon. Okay, and you cut the lemon into two halves and you squeeze it. What are you doing? By squeezing, you are applying some force on the lemon. And by applying force, what happens? The shape of the lemon changes, which was a little like, it was solid, it was filled with juice. When you squeeze it, its shape is changing. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so the third scenario that we were discussing is change of shape. So whenever force is applied, the shape is changed. Okay, so these are the three conditions which can happen when you apply force onto something. So let's understand it in detail now. Okay, so the first condition, as we discussed, the state of rest. Okay,
Good morning,
if
ma'am.
good morning, if the object is moving, it will continue to move unless we apply any force on it. Okay, if the object is stationary, it will continue to remain stationary till we apply some force on it, right?
Ma'am, inertia, right?
Yeah, that's inertia, right? So that was given by whom? That was given by Sir Isaac Newton, and that is the first law of motion. Okay, so this we spoke about. Now let's understand. So force is something which is causing a change in direction, change in motion, or change of shape in an object. But what actually force is? Okay, so in order to carry out all these changes, what do? Either we push something, for example, the football, which is coming towards us. By kicking it, what you're doing, you're pushing it. You're pushing it in some direction, either the same direction or the reverse direction. So force can be either a push, okay? When you're drawing water from the well, you are using the pulley. You are pulling something using the pulley. You're pulling the water up and you are applying force. So force is a pull or a push. And at the same time, when you squeezed the lemon with your hands, you are squeezing something. So for squeezing also, you need force. So force is also squeeze, or it can be a stretch. Okay, so when any of these four things are happening, you are applying force. So sometimes the force required can be large and it is noticeable, but other times it can be really small and we can just ignore it. For example, when you're opening, so for example, if your room door is shut, okay, and you apply force to open the door, you don't even realize you are applying force. The same thing when if there is a big rock or a big stone kept in front of you and you're trying to push it hard, you're applying more force. So at times you will need more force to carry out an activity, and at times you won't even notice because the force required to carry out some activity will be really less. Okay, so did you understand what force is? Force is either a pull, a push, a
Yes, ma'am.
stretch, or a squeeze. Okay, very easy to understand. You can apply. So during the day, whatever activities you're doing, you can categorize all these activity and try to see for yourself where and how much you are applying force to carry out that particular activity. Okay. So what are the effects of force? We discussed this in the introduction, that due to force, see the first condition, okay? Due to force, if a ball is stationary and you push it with your hand, the ball starts moving. Okay, so the from the state of rest, it starts moving. Okay, in the second scenario, if there is one person standing on the opposite end and he pushes the ball again using force, the ball will change its direction, or if the other person puts force, he can even stop the ball. Okay, so you are either changing the direction or you are changing the state of motion. Okay, and what is the third condition? You can either change the shape or the size of an object. For example, if you have a sponge which is dipped in water and you take that out of water and you squeeze it. By squeezing, what you're doing, you're applying force on the sponge, right? And while squeezing, the shape of the sponge is getting changed. It is not getting changed permanently. It is a temporary phase while you are squeezing. Only during that time the shape of the sponge is changing. So all these are the effects. All these are the effects that you see when you apply force. Okay, understood this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now here I have given 4 examples. Okay, for example, the first one is kneading the dough. When you knead the dough to make rotis, what do? Are you applying a push or a pull?
Ma'am, push.
We are applying a push, and due to that push, what is happening? There's a change in shape.
Ma'am, it is changing in the state of motion and changing in shape.
Shape also, right? So the first one is done for you. Now while we are discussing this, let's write also. Okay, so we said that it is a push, right? Now let's go to the second example. Now you are going to tell me, in the second, third, and fourth, what is happening? Is it a pull or a push, and what are the effects which we are observing? So what is the second one?
Ma'am, it's a push because we are Ma'am, it's
Ma'am,
a
the
push
second one
because
is a
you're
push.
pushing the pedal.
You are
That
pushing
is
the
Yeah,
pedal.
pedal.
Yes. So it's a push. Okay.
And
And what happens due to the push?
The cycle starts to rise.
Ma'am, the cycle starts.
So that means from
motion.
rest, it is going into motion. So we say change in state of motion. Okay. That is the first thing which is happening. Anything else? Is the shape changing?
no, ma'am.
But the direction can change, right? When you are applying pedals,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you can change the direction. Okay. Now, let's go to the third one. What is the third picture? Are you able to see the third picture clearly?
Ma'am, pull. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Okay.
Ma'am,
pull.
it's a pull. We are pulling the
It's a pull. Okay. And what is happening because of the pull?
Ma'am, it is becoming longer.
Ma'am, I think it will be called as a stretch.
It's a stretch. Okay. So, what do we say? Change of shape. When we say
But ma'am, that also is temporary, ma'am.
temporary, yes. So when we say there is change of shape, it is temporary. Okay, but at the same time, when you're cutting something, okay, that for that also you're applying force. But there, what is happening is a permanent change. If you're cutting a lemon into 2 halves, by applying force, you're changing the shape from a sphere, it has become a hemisphere. And that is not temporary. It cannot go back to a full sphere, okay? So the change in shape can be permanent or the change in shape can be temporary, okay? Now let's go to the fourth one. What do you observe? Is it a pull or a push? You have
Ma'am,
a
it's a
pull.
Ma'am, a pull.
Okay, it's a pull. And what is happening here?
Ma'am, it's also stretch.
Ma'am, it's changing
No,
in
it's
shape.
not a stretch. It's not a stretch. You are bending it. Bending is not stretching, right? Stretching is pulling straight. Bending is,
Ma'am, changing shape.
yeah, change in shape, which is again temporary. Okay.
Temporary, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So you understood these four. So how do you identify,
Yes, ma'am.
looking at any activity, how do you identify whether it's a pull or a push or a stretch or a squeeze? And what is the effect that force is acting on? What is the effect that it is causing onto the object? Okay. Now let's move ahead. So now when you dribble the ball, you dribble your basketballs and your volleyballs, right? So when you dribble it, what is happening? Are you applying force to dribble it?
Yes, ma'am.
When you apply
Yes,
force,
ma'am.
when you apply force to dribble the ball goes down, hits the floor, comes back up, and while it is coming back up, you are again applying force in an opposite direction to push it downward, right? That's how the dribbling takes place, right? So there are two types of forces. One force which is changing the direction and speed of the ball which is coming up, and the second force which is an invisible force which is acting on the ball. Can you tell me what it is? When you are dribbling the ball, one is the force which happens due to your hand. The ball hits the floor, comes back up.
That gravitational force.
Yes.
That gravitational force.
Yes, so there are two forces. One is the muscular force, which happens because of your hands. And due to muscular force, you are changing the direction of the ball. So when it is coming up, you put your hand and push it downwards. You're changing the direction. When it is coming up, when anything is moving against gravity, the speed reduces, right? When the ball is coming up, its speed is reducing. When you're pushing it down with your hand, its speed again increases. So you're changing the speed, you're changing the direction of the ball. But while you're pushing the ball down with your hand, there is a gravitational force also acting on the object. Okay, you all can try doing these two activities. Dribble the ball with your hands and try using a scale to change the direction. Many a times we take a ball, we try hitting it on the walls, and it bounces back and you again hit it back. So try doing this kind of activity and try observing what is the kind of force and what are the changes this force is causing. Okay, so after the class gets over, you all can try these two activities. Now, as we said, while dribbling, there are two types of forces. Okay, one forces with your hand, where you're actually touching the object. While you dribble, you touch the object, touch the ball. Okay, but there is one more force, gravitational force, which is acting on the ball even when the ball is not on the ground. Even when the ball is in the air, there is gravitational force acting on the ball. Okay, so this way, there are two types of force which are acting on that ball. One is due to touch, which is called as a contact force, because what is contact? To touch something. When you physically touch, when your hands or your legs, you touch the object, that is a contact force. and something like a gravitational force when it is not necessary. So while we are standing on the ground, gravitational force is acting on us. While we jump up, and the moment when we are up in the air, we are not in touch with the ground, even that time, there is a force which is acting on us, which is a non-contact force. Okay, so force on a broader level, force is classified. We have been seeing classification in all the topics we have been studying so far. Okay, so as far as force is concerned, it is broadly classified into two groups: contact force and non-contact force. Okay, so in the first picture you will see that these two kids are pushing the bicycle, they are pushing the cycle by touching it with their hands. The one who's riding is also he's not pedaling, but in case if he would have been pedaling, he would have been in touch, he would have kept his hands on the pedal. So these four, the first picture shows contact force, and the second picture is when a fruit or a flower is falling off the tree, when the leaves are falling off the tree. All this is happening due to some non-contact force, because the tree, the leaves and the fruits, they are high up on the tree, and it is not in touch with the ground. So the force which is acting on the fruit or the flower is a non-contact force. Okay, so going further, we will be studying many types of forces which are under the contact category, and we will also be seeing the forces which are non-contact type of forces. Okay, so you understood what are contact and what are non-contact forces?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's move ahead. Okay, so contact forces means when two bodies, okay, they are in physical contact with each other. It can be a living body and a non-living body, or it can be two non-living bodies. Okay, for example, the first one is the muscular force. Okay, when these two men are pushing a box. So what are the two bodies here? One is a body of the human being, and second body is the object which is being pushed. Okay, so one is a living body and the second is a non-living body. Okay, but they are in physical contact with each other. So this kind of a force, when you are applying force by your muscles, okay, it is called a muscular force. The second type of contact force is called frictional force, which happens either again due to two non-living bodies, or it can be due to a living and a non-living body as well. Okay, so these are the two types of contact forces. Okay, so what is muscular force? It is due to the action of your muscles. And what is the frictional force? Okay, now y'all explain me what is friction. Do you understand what is friction?
Ma'am, friction is the rubbing of two things against each other.
Against each other. What do you mean by against?
One moving in one way and the other in the opposite way.
Opposite direction. So while you see the muscular force, men are pushing the box towards the left. Even the object is moving towards the left. Okay, so the force is being applied in one direction and the object is also moving in the same direction in a push. But in a frictional force, the friction always acts in the opposite direction. Okay, so such a force is called a frictional force. We will be studying the frictional force in detail. So for now, just remember that force of friction is a contact type of force. Okay, now let's see what are the examples of non-contact forces. when two bodies are not in contact with each other. Okay, they can be living, non-living, or two non-living bodies. Okay, so the first type is magnetic force. We saw when we studied magnets that even when the magnet is kept away from the iron object, the objects get attracted towards each other even when they are not physically touching it, right? So that's why magnetic force is a non-contact type of force. The second type is electrostatic force. Do you all remember doing the electrostatic force activity in the lab?
Yes, ma'am. We had to rub a balloon on our head
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then stick it to a surface.
Yes. So when after you rubbed the balloon, when you took it near the wall attracted, they both attracted and they joined, right? So that is a non-contact type of force, and it happens because of the, what is it? What causes electrostatic force?
Friction.
No. Yeah,
Uh,
you are creating friction by rubbing.
Static
Yes.
electricity.
Static electricity. That means charges, right? So there are charges which is causing the electrostatic force. So the two objects which either attract or repel are due to the charges that they carry. Okay, so that is electrostatic force. The third type is the gravitational force. So no matter where you are, now see this picture, okay? This boy is standing on the ground and he threw the ball. So ball forms a shape, right? Ball travels in the air till it reaches the ground. Okay. Now all these, I mean, these are not different balls. This is the path the ball has traveled before it lands on the ground. Okay, now at all the positions during the travel, gravitational force is acting on it on a continuous basis. Okay, whether the ball is at a 1 meter height, or it is at a 2 meter height, or it is in between 1 and 2, or it is just at a 1 centimeter height from the ground, at all the levels the gravitational force is continuously acting on that ball. Okay, so gravitational force is also a non-contact type of force. Okay, understood the types of contact and non-contact force?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now
Yes,
now we will be studying each of these forces in detail. Okay. So a few more example. We saw two main categories under contact force. One is muscular, one is friction. Okay. Under muscular force, there are many things. For example, when you're playing cricket or when you're playing baseball, you're hitting the ball. Okay. That is a muscular force. The force of a spring. Okay. When you are have you all played with a spring ever? The spring which is there in your pens, in your ball pens. Have you all ever played with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
when you squeeze the spring with your two fingers and you leave it, the spring bounces back. Okay, that's a spring force. The spring comes back to its original state. Okay, so that is the spring force. When you are flying on with a parachute, that time also there is a force which is contact type of force. Again, we saw frictional force. Okay, so all these are types of contact forces. And we already saw what are non-contact forces. Electrical, magnetic, and gravitational force are the non-contact types of forces. Now, the first contact type of force is the muscular force. Okay. Now, you remember, you recognize this game. Which game is this?
Tug of war. Tug of war.
Now we know. Yeah. Okay. So we all know that it's a muscular force. Okay. Now tell me, what are the effects that this muscular force is causing in the game? What are the effects?
Ma'am, both are pulling, so there is a stretch in the rope.
There's a stretch in the rope. Both are pulling. That means what? Both are pulling. That's correct. There's a stretch is also correct.
Change of motion. And the force
Sorry?
is applied in both directions.
Ma'am, it's a balance force.
Change of motion.
It's not change in motion. Partially, I mean, yes. The rope is pulled. So from stationary, it's being pulled. So change in motion.
Change of direction.
Change in direction, because there are two pulls. Okay. Two pulls in the opposite direction. That's why there is a change in direction. It's not, we cannot say that it is a balanced force yet. It can be that, one team is a little stronger and the other team is a weak. In that case, the force will become unbalanced forces. Okay. So what are the three effects? The change in the direction, the change in the state of motion, and third is they're all the forces is pull type of force. Okay. Now in the second picture, he is working with dumbbells. So what is the effect here in the second picture?
And change in the state of motion.
Change in the state of motion. Yes.
Change in direction and speed.
Change in direction and speed. Anything else?
Ma'am, I think it's a pull.
Ma'am, maybe it's a muscular force.
It is a muscular force. It is a muscular force. We are talking about muscular force, but we are discussing what are the effects of the muscular force. It's a pull, right? He's pulling it upwards, right? He's pulling it upwards. He's changing the direction. So, and he's changing the speed. Okay. So these are a few examples of muscular force. Now, without even you observing, there are a lot of types of muscular forces which are happening in your day-to-day life. For example, when you're breathing, when you're digesting your food, we know that digestion is what releases energy in our body. But do we know that to carry out digestion also we need energy? We need some force, right? Lifting a bucket, pulling or pushing an object. To carry out any of these tasks, we need muscular energy. Okay? So is muscular energy clear to you all?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now, during the day,
Ma'am, what's the question?
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Second picture, I think it's a push because using his hands, he's pushing the dumbbell upward.
He's pulling it, right? If he would have been pushing it, he would have been holding it in the other way. Try doing it with your scale, the big scale. Try holding it with your palms facing up. You will pull it towards your body. You're pulling it towards your body. When you hold with your palm facing downwards, you are pushing it towards the ground. Okay? So we call it a pull type of force. Okay. So today what you will do is, whatever activities you carry out in the home, when you help your mom, when you're writing, you try to observe. You will know that whenever you are doing it, it is a muscular force. But you try to observe what are the changes, what are the effects that the muscular force is causing in that activity. Okay. So you can note that down in your books. Okay. So is muscular force clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's move to the second type of contact forces. And the second type of contact force is a frictional force. Okay. So what happens now? Before reading what is written, let's understand the picture. Now the first case, the person, what is he doing? He's skiing, right? So now when he's skiing on the snow, the friction is less. He will be able to ski very smoothly, right? But if he tries skiing on the grass, on the lawns, will that be as smooth as skiing on the snow?
No, ma'am.
No, because there is
Ma'am,
friction. Okay,
Farida ma'am must come.
sorry. Okay, yeah.
Farida ma'am must
We
come.
will continue. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I heard that. We will continue, and Farida ma'am will take over. Okay. All right. So the skiing on the snow will be easier because the friction there would be less. But when we are trying to slide down on a of a small hill where there is full of grass and stones and everything, there will be a lot of friction. Now what will happen due to this friction? The speed with which you are moving, that speed will reduce. Okay, so if you're running on a smooth plane, or a, for example, escalators. Okay, if the escalator is a smooth escalator and you're trying to run down the escalator, your speed is faster. When you're trying to run down a hill which has small rocks and pebbles and bushes and all, there is a lot of friction, because of which the speed with which you're moving will change. Okay, so what is happening due to friction? Friction is something which is acting in the opposite direction of the motion, due to which the speed or the state of motion will change. Okay, try observing in the second picture. There is a phone which is sliding off an inclined plane. Okay, the phone is sliding. If the inclined plane would have been really smooth, and if the phone surface would have been really smooth, the phone would have fallen down. Okay, just because the phone and the surface has friction, the speed with which the phone is going down is slow. Okay, understood the frictional force?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we saw two types of contact forces. One is the muscular force and other is a frictional force. Can you all give me one example from your day-to-day life of the frictional force?
What, ma'am? I couldn't hear.
I
Ma'am,
walking.
ma'am, is it like can be like this when our mother washes the utensils? She scrubs it. So is that frictional force?
Uh, Scrubbing, she is applying friction. If you know what, so there are two types. Again, the way we discussed here, smooth and the rough surface, the same way, if if you are rubbing it with a smooth sponge, or if you are rubbing it with a rough scrubber, there will be a difference in the amount of friction. Okay,
Okay.
you all try doing it with yourselves. You try washing a utensil with a smooth sponge, and try rubbing it using a rough scrubber. There is friction when two objects are acting on each other, but the level of friction will be different depending upon the smoothness or roughness of the object.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
Yeah.
will it be frictional?
I'm playing on the slide. I'm playing on the
Ma'am,
slide.
Yes,
ma'am, while swinging,
playing on the
ma'am,
slide.
when we
Yeah, playing on the slide is exactly same as in the second picture, right? You are going down the
Yes,
slide.
ma'am.
At times, right now in the parks and all, there are those smooth plastic slides. Earlier, there used to be all the iron slides. where there used to be a paint, and many a times due to corrosion and all, the paint used to peel off and there used to be dents in the slide. So that used to add on to the friction. So yes, coming down a slide is a type of frictional force. Any other example?
Ma'am, while bathing.
Huh?
Ma'am, while swinging on the swing.
Now, how is that a frictional force?
Ma'am, we're pushing ourselves ahead of the wind.
So you are
Will that
acting
be
in
counted?
friction. You are acting in friction with the air.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, it's a
No, right?
muscular force, ma'am. Ma'am, she's contacting with the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. It is partially a muscular force because you are the one who's applying force to move against the wind, right?
Yeah.
Any other example?
Ma'am, while bathing.
While bathing, how? How is bathing a frictional force?
Ma'am, when we put soap on our body, the soap slides down.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
while snapping, your middle finger and the thumb
You're
slide
creating a
against
friction.
each other.
Yes, you're creating a friction there. Okay. One more most common example is your car moving on the road. Okay. Now, when the roads are smooth, when the road is very smooth, how will the car move? What will be the speed of the car? It'll be a little higher, but due to friction, what happens? The speed gets controlled. That's why you will observe that the roads are never made smooth. So in your house, in your house, the floors are really smooth. Okay, but the roads are never that smooth. The roads are rough. Okay, that is to create friction, because the friction will help in controlling the speed of the car. The same way, the tires, have you all observed when the tires are new, they have a lot of grooves in them, right? Try to observe your cycle tire or the car, tires. When they are very new, they have a lot of grooves. They have lots of, it's not an even surface. So such a surface on the tires is created to have friction, because their friction is required. And when the tires become old, the grooves start getting smoother and smoother. So typically what we do is, when the tires become really, they don't become very smooth, we don't wait till then, but due to using it for a long time, the tires become smooth, and then we change the tires, because if the tires are very smooth, then we will not get enough friction. So there could be cases when we can lose control over the speed of the car. So to have a safe and controlled driving, we we have, the grooved tires to induce friction into the driving. Okay, so you understood muscular and frictional force. Now let's go to the next category.
Ma'am,
Yes.
skateboarding will also be a frictional force, right?
Yes, it will be. So when you're skating on the smooth surface, you are able to skate very freely. Try skating on the road. Usually when you are learning skating, you are skating in a smooth surface, maybe on a terrace kind of a area, right? And when you try the skate, yeah.
Ma'am, skateboarding, like when you push and then skateboard.
So that's what I'm saying. So when you're skateboarding, you're talking about the one when you go up and down, the U-shaped one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there is friction. Okay. Now let's study the non-contact type of forces. The first force is the magnetic force. Okay. So magnetic force, we know in the picture we can see that magnetic force is a pull. Okay. Do you have any examples of magnetic force as a push?
Ma'am,
Oh,
repulsion.
ma'am, magnetic force can be used as, ma'am, I think it can be because if
Ma'am, I could not hear you clearly that time. Can you spell?
Ma'am, magnetic field. They put opposite magnets so they repel each other.
They repel each other. Okay. So magnet to any iron, nickel or cobalt material or a substance, it will be a force of attraction. When you mean attraction, you mean there's a pull type of force. And when there is repulsion, when two like poles come together, there is a push kind of a force. So magnetic force can be a pull or a push. Okay. Now pull or push will happen without any physical contact between the two objects. When they are repelling each other, they are not completely touching each other. Okay. From far itself, they can repel each other. The same way for the attraction. So magnetic force is a non-contact type of force. Okay. Now let's go to the next non-contact type of force.
Because of
Should I continue?
Um,
Continue, Swapna?
okay, you want to take over?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, you all saw the types of forces. You all saw contact forces. Now we are doing the non-contact force. Means the force will work from a distance. You don't need to be in contact for it to work. Like you saw muscular force. Only if you touch, then only will it work. Same way, electrostatic force, it works from a distance. Electrostatic force was
ma'am,
the
are you
first kind.
talking?
Yeah. Hello. Am I
Ma'am, I
audible?
can hear you.
yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Ma'am, I cannot hear you.
Okay.
Arjun, you rejoin.
Or turn on captions. You
Okay.
can
Okay.
see what ma'am.
Okay. So non-contact force, we saw the first one of the first types we saw in the class we had seen. We saw electrostatic forces. What are electrostatic forces? Electrostatic forces are the force between opposite charges. We saw how if we rub a certain object, they acquire charge. Some objects acquire positive charge, some objects acquire negative charge. Then the opposite charges will attract each other, and this kind of force is for a temporary basis. So we call it as static electricity. This is your electrostatic force, is that only, static electricity, what we're talking here about. So what we're talking about here, the attraction between the types of opposite charges, we call that kind of force, that kind of interaction, we call it as a Coulomb force. Okay. And this was one of the major forces which was discovered by uh, Coulomb in around 1700. It was 1700 that he discovered this, and because his name was Coulomb, he named the force also Coulomb. Okay. So in non-contact force, you have got the static electricity force that we're talking about. The static electricity force that we're talking about, that we've already experimented, we've done it. We had made that jar in which two papers were hung, and then we got a charged object like a charged balloon, and then we kept the charged balloon near that jar, and the two paper they separated from each other. So that is what we are
Excuse me,
calling
ma'am.
as static force. Yes.
Ma'am, what are the things that are sticking on the comb?
Paper, I think.
the comb with a cloth, the comb will develop a negative charge. Okay. Now that negative charge on the comb is taken near the pieces of paper. When you take it near the pieces of paper, the paper has got a neutral charge, means the paper has got equal number of positive and negative. So whatever the positive charges are there, they will start getting attracted towards the comb. So that is what we call as static electricity, and that is nothing but your electrostatic force. Okay, this is electrostatic force. Next, one other type of force that does not work because of touch, it just works on its own without the touch, that is called as non-contact force. The name of that force is called as gravitational force. Right? What happens in gravity? Gravity is a force because which is being subjected by a heavenly body. Let's say we are on the earth. So earth has a certain gravity. We spoke about this before also. Then moon also has its certain gravity. Correct? So all these gravitation pull what is there, the heavenly body is having on any object. That kind of force is called as a gravitational force. Okay? We've seen this very much in details before. Okay, so gravity is a type of a force. Gravity is a force, right? Okay, next. Gravity's force was discovered by Mr. Newton, and that is why he gave the concept of force also. So the unit of force is known as Newton on his name. It is abbreviated by the letter N, and the unit is written as Newton. Okay, so force, anytime whenever you want to mention it, you always mention it as Newton. Force, you'll always mention it as Newton. Okay, the Isaac Newton also gave his 3 laws. We studied all those 3 laws in the lab itself. Only we studied.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we studied all the 3 laws we had done. We had done the experiments also based on it. So, what Isaac Newton did was related to force. Okay, next. Next. So, this is the experiments which we normally do. We take a ball, we pick it up. So, you say this is what kind of a force that you're applying on the ball. The ball is there in its own place. In the beginning, you studied how the force changes the state of rest or state of motion. So the ball was in state of rest. Now you pick it up with your hand, that is using your muscular force. You bring it in motion. So that is called as muscular force. Okay. Secondly, you also studied friction. So for that, we take a smooth surface, we take a rough surface. For a rough surface, for example,
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
No, ma'am.
here.
Yes, ma'am, your voice is break. Yes, ma'am, your voice is breaking a bit.
Okay, I'll just change a little bit position. Okay. So now it's better.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, much better. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So friction force also we would be doing an experiment. You take a ball and you roll it on a carpet. You take a ball and you roll it on the normal flow. What will happen? The ball that is on the flow will flow faster than the one that is on the carpet, because carpet is offering friction. Because of the material of the carpet, it is offering friction. So that is why it will cause a lot of resistance to the ball for its flow. Okay. Electrostatic force also, we have done the experiment before, we would be repeating it also. Okay, and magnetic force using magnets, we uh, what do? You take two magnets. If they are of the same pole, so what will happen is they will push each other. That is a push, right? The force we said is a push or a pull. So it will push. Okay, and when you take north and south together, they both will pull together. So you say it is pulling. Okay, so this is how magnetic force also works. Okay, next. Okay. I want you to tell me what phenomenon is working here. Okay. If supposing you hit some kind of a rock, you're hitting some kind of a rock, the rock will not get hurt, you will get hurt. What is happening there?
Ma'am, equal and opposite reaction.
Yes, Newton's third law of motion. Newton's third law of motion says an equal and opposite force comes back. Right? So when how much ever force you are applying on the rock is also applying that much force on you. And so because of that, it hurts on your toe more than it hurts the rock. Probably it hurts the rock also, it is not telling you, but because you can feel it, you feel that it's hurting on your toe. Okay, next. Okay, there's another way of classifying the
Okay, ma'am.
force. We call that as balance and non-balance force. Okay, so when do you call it balance? What happens when you are in a tug of war? In a tug of war, uh, both the parties, what they try to do is they try to pull the rope towards themselves. But if there are equal number of participants, or if the strength of the participants is enough on both the ends, then what will happen? The rope will be very difficult to move the rope. Yes, so that kind of a force is what we call as a balance force. Both the sides balanced, right? What happens if on one end there are less people and one end there are more people? If one end there are less,
Ma'am, the end in which there are more people will going to win the tug of war because there will be more strength in that area.
so
Ma'am,
there's
it
going to be
will be
more
an
force there.
unbalanced force.
Yes, there's going to be more force there, right? So this is called as an unbalanced force. So whenever there is, let's say there is a big box, very heavy box, okay, and two people are pushing it from right side, two people are pushing it from left side. What will happen? The end result?
Ma'am, zero, because there will be neutralization. This force will neutralize that force.
Yeah,
And
yeah, nothing will happen. The box will not move only. Now, if supposing there are three people on one end and there are just two people on one end, so then what will happen is where there are three people, that people will push the box towards the other end, and the box will move slightly towards the other end, right? So on basis of that, always whenever you want the force to act on something, you want an unbalanced force. Using balanced force, you will not be able to move anything. Okay, so you always have to have unbalanced force, then only can something move from its place. Okay, next.
Okay, ma'am.
Next. Any questions?
no.
Any questions related to force?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. We'll go to our next topic, pressure. Okay. So we are going to our second topic, that is called as pressure. Okay. So pressure is also involving force. Okay. How will you differentiate pressure and force? Can anybody tell me what is the difference between pressure and force?
In pressure,
Ma'am, pressure is a scalar quantity whereas force is a vector quantity.
No, sorry. Okay. Pressure
Ma'am,
applied.
pressure is the area in which the force is applied.
Yes. So pressure is on how much area the force is being applied. So basically, it is the next step of force. Okay. For that we'll go to the next slide. Okay. In the first case, you have the balloon. You have to burst the balloon. If you're bursting the balloon with your finger, okay, the balloon will not burst. How much ever you try to press it. So when you're pressing it, how much area of force you're applying, the area that is on the tip of your finger. So the area on the tip of your finger will be the area in which you are applying the force. So that will be the pressure applied there. Now instead of finger, if you're using a needle, in the needle, what is the area that is being applied? Only one point, only one small point you're applying, right? So the area is becoming very, very less. So the force that you're applying on that particular area increases much, much more. The effect increases. So you say the pressure is increasing. And so what will happen? The balloon will burst immediately. Another example. If supposing I have a nail, I am hammering the nail in a wooden box or in a wooden substance. Should I hammer it the first method or the second method?
First method.
first method.
Why?
First, I mean.
Why? Why not the second?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, in the
because
first
the
method, because the
nail will
nail is on the brick and it is easy.
In the first method, you are hitting the nail. The nail with its pointed end will go inside the wood. If you are hitting now the nail upside downwise, the pointed side is up and the flat side is down. So that what happens? The area is increasing there. The area is increasing there. So the force that you are applying is same on both the ends. It's not going to change, but the pressure is reducing. And so because of that, the nail in the second case will not go inside. The nail in the first case will go inside, but in the second case, it will not go inside. Another very simple way of understanding pressure would be if you have a pencil in your hand. Okay? If you have a pencil in your hand and you're catching it like exactly the way it is shown in the presentation, where you feel more force? You'll feel more force towards the end or towards the sharpened end. Come on, tell me.
Towards the sharpened end.
Sharp end.
So you say now you will not use the word force. Now you will use the word pressure. The pressure is more on the sharpening. So pressure is nothing but you're seeing the force that you're applying in how much area. Then you call it as pressure. Okay. Next. So force can be big or small. Okay, force can be big, force can be small also. Force can be a lot of force or less force also. So you can have a strong force, you can have a weak force. Okay, but pressure will tell you the force that you're applying on how much area. So let's imagine in the second picture you have got that orange color stick. Okay, that orange color stick is the force that you're applying. That force you're applying on that particular blue area. If you're applying on that particular blue area, so you say the pressure out there is so and so. Okay. Very simple example I'll tell you about pressure. Whenever sometimes there is a water trouble, what happens is when you open the taps, you realize that the water is coming slow. So what is the first word we say? What is it that we say? What sentence do we use?
Ma'am, the pressure of the water is lower very high.
Yes, you will say कि pressure of the water has gone down. Okay, and if the water comes back, you'll say the pressure has come back to its normal. So what is that pressure? What is pressure? Pressure is how much force is coming in how much area. Next slide. Okay. So basically, if I talk about pressure, I'll talk about two quantities. I'll talk about force and I'll talk about area. Okay. So I'll say pressure is equal to.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking a little bit.
Okay. So I'll say the pressure is being applied. How much? How much force is being applied in how much area? Okay. So I'm saying pressure is equal to force upon area. Now tell me one thing. Think and tell me, if I say force is increasing, what will happen to the pressure?
Ma'am, it will
Ma'am, pressure.
increase.
Pressure will increase. If force is decreasing, what? If force decreases, what happens to the pressure?
Pressure
Ma'am,
decreases because
Okay.
the pressure
So
is
here it means that pressure and force are related to each other. More the pressure, more the force. Less the force, less the pressure. Okay. Now let's see at the quantity of area. Okay. If there is bigger area and there are two same
pressure is
forces being
less.
applied. Okay. Let's say I'm applying a force of 10 newtons on a pillow, on a small pillow that you sleep on. Okay. And I'm applying a 10 newtons pressure on the entire mattress on which you sleep. Okay, where will my pressure be more? My pressure will be more on the
On the
mattress, or my
pillow.
pressure will be more on the pillow.
Ma'am, pillow.
Why?
Pillow. Ma'am, because it has a smaller area.
Okay, so me ulta, barabar? Lesser the area, more the pressure. More the area, lesser the pressure. Right? Correct? Understanding
ma'am.
this or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How many are interested in chatting? How many are interested in chatting? Can leave the class. You all can form your own Google Classroom and start chatting out there. Okay? No chatting in my class. Okay. So area, we're talking about area. So if I'm talking about area, if the area is less, the pressure is more. If the area is more, the pressure will be less. Okay. So area and pressure are oppositely related. Okay. So get this point very clear. Pressure depends on 2 points. Pressure depends on force and pressure depends on area. Two things. Okay. More the force, more the pressure. Less the force, less the pressure. More the area, less the pressure. Less the area, more the pressure. This is how it is done. Okay. The unit of pressure is called as Pascal, because when you take the unit of force, you will say Newton. When you take the unit of area, you will say meter square. You see, na, area, any area, you write meter square, na, area of a square, area of a circle, you write at the end meter square, right? So the force would be written as Newton per meter square. Newton per meter square. So when you write Newton per meter square, it is nothing but it is called as Pascal. Because it was discovered by a scientist known as Pascal. The concept of pressure was discovered by him, Blaise Pascal. His name was Blaise Pascal. And so the unit is named after him. It is called as Pascal. Okay. So you have got pressure is equal to force upon area. The unit is Pascal. We've got many types of pressures. Okay, we've got atmospheric pressure that we normally feel in our surrounding, in the air, in the atmosphere, that is called as atmospheric pressure. And another type of pressure that we feel, we call it as the liquid pressure. So two types of pressures are there. Okay.
Ma'am, I
Yes?
heard the name of Blaise Pascal somewhere else, maybe in mathematics. There was something called Blaise triangle or something. Pascal's.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Let's. So I discussed this with you. I said pressure depends on two factors. One is force, and one is in how much area it is being applied. So more the force, more the pressure, less the force, less the pressure. Okay. You can see in the second picture, the force that is being applied on both the places is same. The force is being applied is same. But in the first picture, the wooden surface is big. The wooden, what is there is little bit bigger rectangle. And in the second place, you can see that the wooden is little bit smaller rectangle. So what will happen? The first one will experience low pressure because the area is more, and in the second place it will experience high pressure because the area is less. Okay, is this pressure concept clear with you all?
Yes,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. Okay, so a lot of times we want to increase pressure at certain places, we want to decrease pressure at certain places. So we'll see a few examples where we are doing this by either increasing force or by either reducing area or by increasing area. Okay. Now, why do you use sharp objects to cut things? Scissors, knives. Why they are sharp? Why do you need them sharp? Chalo, give me
Because they
answer.
have less area. They are covering less area while they're cutting.
Yeah. So when they are very sharp, that sharpness means it is a very thin area. Thin area means it's a very less area. So if it is very less area, it means the force that you're applying will give more pressure. So you will be able to cut your objects very well. Okay, so that is why you use sharp things. Okay, have you ever noticed how many wheels a truck has?
I'm 6.
6, sometimes 8, sometimes 10 also, depending on the size of the truck. Why do the trucks have so many wheels?
Ma'am, because of their load capacity.
So so see, whenever a wheel is working on the road, the surface that is in contact is very little because it is round. Na? Right now, if supposing the wheels were in the shape of a square, the surface in contact with the road would be the side of the square. If you're putting a round, a circle on the road, there will be only a tip that will be in contact with the road. So if you take 4 such tires, like how there is in the car, the truck won't be able to carry a lot of force inside it. So because it wants to carry a lot of force inside it, you need to reduce the pressure. So to reduce the pressure, you have to increase the area. So by increasing the area, you mean you increase the tires. So you increase the tires, so the area in contact increases, and so the truck will not have a lot of pressure to carry the goods, especially when it is on the hilly regions. Okay. Next example is again a nail. If a nail is sharp, it will go inside well. If a nail is not sharp, it will not go. You'll have to put a lot of pressure to put it inside. Okay. Then even the tip of your sewing needles, even your sewing needles are such that you will need to have the tip very, very sharp. But if it's very sharp, then it will get into the cloth very easily. Okay. Any tools that we use, we make sure that the tools are very, very sharp.
Okay, ma'am.
We can't walk on the sand, but on the other hand, the camel is very easily, it can walk on the sand. Why? Because you've ever noticed the camel has broad foot. So as compared to our foot
Yes,
area,
ma'am.
the area of the camel's foot is very, very more. So because of more area, the pressure on the camel is
And
less,
the pressure will be
and
less.
so it can run very easily on the sand. Okay. Your school bags are very, very heavy, so the force is very much out there. Okay. Now how to reduce the pressure there? So to reduce the pressure, what will you do? The straps that you use, those straps will be made of thick material. Okay, so the straps need to be thick so that you don't get the pressure on your shoulders.
And because the
If
thick strap, the more area it will going to take.
yes, if supposing the straps are thin, what will happen? You will get more pressure
So the pressure will be more.
on your shoulders, and so that will create a problem. Correct? So that is one
Yes.
another example of your school bag. Okay. Okay, skis. Skis also which people use no for skiing on the ice. Okay, they are very long and they are flat. Why they are long and they are flat? Because they increase the area. As compared to your legs, the skis have got more area, so they can go on the ice very well. Okay. One another example of pressure is what we are going to be doing a little bit in detail is hydraulics. Hydraulics is when you are using liquid pressure. So what happens when you use liquid pressure? We'll be seeing it further that how you are able to in lesser area you can apply more force. Okay. So we'll do it that way. Okay. Next. Okay. Now we've got now how to compare volume and pressure. Okay. So that is what is called as Boyle's law. Okay. So what did Boyle say? Boyle gave his law. The name of the scientist is Robert Boyle. He gave the law in 1662. What did he say? In the first case, if you can see in the first beaker, the first beaker, if you can see, where there are those orange color balls that they have shown. Here, the volume is very, very big. The volume is very, very big. So how is
Ma'am,
the
I've
pressure
done
there?
this.
Huh? What?
I've done this in my.
Okay. So if you can see the volume is very big. So how will the pressure be there?
Ma'am,
How
lesser.
will the
More the volume or area, the lesser the
right?
pressure.
So the pressure will be less. So that is what is happening in the second case. What is happening?
Ma'am,
The
the
pressure
volume.
is increasing. What is happening? The volume is decreasing. So pressure and volume are interrelated to each other. Okay, they are opposite of each other. More the pressure, less the volume, more the pressure. Okay, understood?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this was given
Yes,
by
ma'am.
Robert Boyle. We'll see a few applications of it next page. Okay. So you see that scuba divers, they require special pumps when they go down. Why? Because the pressure as they're going down and down increases. So for that, they need to carry with them those special suits and everything. Okay. The second example of pressure volume is when you're drinking from a straw. So when you're drinking from a straw, that you increase the pressure, so the volume of
Ma'am,
the
your voice is
not audible. My voice is not audible.
Ma'am, it
Ma'am,
is.
you're audible.
no, ma'am.
Okay.
Audible, ma'am.
Okay. So what will happen is that as you're drinking water from the straw, you're increasing the pressure. So as you are increasing the pressure, the water comes in the straw, and so the volume in the glass decreases, right? So this is how pressure volume concept works. Okay. Now next we have got pressure volume example in your respiration. What happens out there in the respiration? In the respiration, we saw how there is inhalation and there is exhalation, right? So when there is inhalation, the volume is increasing of your lungs. So at that time, the pressure around it is decreasing. Now, when you are exhaling out,
And the
the
pressure is
pressure
more.
the pressure is increasing, and because the pressure is increasing, the volume is decreasing. So your inhalation, exhalation is also working on this concept, that is pressure volume, which is shown by Boyle's. Okay. So this is one another concept based on pressure and volume given in the law of Boyle's law. Okay. Next. So we saw how pressure is, how much force is acting on how much area. Okay. There is, if you want to increase the pressure, you either increase the force or you decrease the area. Okay. As opposite to that, if you want to decrease the pressure, what you will do? You will decrease the force or you will increase the area.
Yes,
Okay?
ma'am.
Because the formula of pressure is force upon area. Pressure, we'll come to it next. The fluids will act such that it is acting equally in all the directions. Okay. And as you go more and more deep in water, pressure will increase out there. Okay. So we'll go to the next concept. Any questions up till now? Pressure?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, next. So first we're going to talk about atmospheric pressure. Imagine you are on the earth. Okay, now there is a layer of air on you. On that layer of air, probably it is lesser, it's less in density, but still it is there, and still there is more lesser density. At the end, above you, there is always a layer and layer of air on you. that layer of air will always exert some kind of force on you. Some kind of weight will be put on your body, right? That force that is coming on your body is what is called as your atmospheric pressure. Okay, that is called as atmospheric pressure. Okay, next. So whenever I want to define what is atmospheric pressure, I'll say how much area is there and how much force is being exerted on that area by the surface of the air above you. If supposing you take on the right side, you're taking the blue color column. Okay, blue color column is the air that is present in that blue color column. Okay, in that blue color column, how much ever air is there, that entire air will exert pressure on the lowest part of that blue column, on the lowest part out there. So whatever pressure of those molecules will come, that will all come and that will come finally on the ground, the green ground uh, where the atmosphere is meeting the ground. So that is where you say that atmospheric pressure will be applied. Okay. Normally, the atmospheric pressure around us right now, okay, is called as 1 atmospheric pressure. We are living in an atmospheric pressure of 1 atmospheric pressure. Okay, slightly also, if that goes high or less, we'll feel discomfort. Okay, so right now all around us we feel approximately 1 atmospheric pressure around us. Okay, next. Okay, so there are two specific conditions of atmospheric pressure. First of all, atmospheric pressure is such that it acts in all directions equally. Okay, so it will act left side, right side, upside, downside, all side. It will be acting same way. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing is atmospheric pressure will always vary with the height of the object above the sea level. So if you are at a higher altitude, the temperature and the density of the air is very, very low out there. Because the temperature and the density of the air is very, very low out there, what is going to happen is that the atmospheric pressure is going to reduce. Okay, so always keep in mind that when you are at sea level, whenever you are at sea level, now we are going above the sea level.
Mom, your voice is breaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you are going above the sea level, okay, what is happening above the sea level? The density of the air around you is decreasing. Because the density of the air around you is decreasing as you're going upper and upper, higher and higher, means you're going in the sea. So what is going to happen out there is that the
Excuse
atmospheric
me, ma'am.
pressure will become lower. Okay, the atmospheric pressure will be lower. Now if you're going below the sea level, now in you're going in the sea, you already have the air above you. You also have now the water above you. So there is air also above you and there is water also above you. So what will happen to your atmospheric pressure? What will happen to your atmospheric pressure?
Ma'am, it will decrease.
Okay. Anyone else? Can anyone else also answer? Hello?
Ma'am, what did you say? Ma'am, I couldn't hear you.
I am saying if supposing you are at sea level, let's say at sea level, you are having certain pressure of say 1 atmosphere. Okay. Now you are going above the sea level. So now you went on the hills. So what happened there? The air is becoming slightly less dense. Because it's becoming slightly less dense, the atmospheric pressure on you is reducing out there. Now I'm telling you, now you're going inside the sea. You're going inside the sea. So now you already have the air above you, but now you also have the sea water above you also. So will the atmospheric pressure increase or will it decrease?
Increase.
Ma'am, decrease.
Ma'am, increase.
Increase.
Increase, no, because now the pressure on you will increase, no, totally. First you had only a layer of air on you. Now you also have a layer of water on you also. So automatically the pressure on you is increasing as you're going down. So there is an increasing in the pressure. So if you see the graph, if you're on the top of some mountain, let's say your atmospheric pressure is going to be somewhere around 30, okay, as shown below in the x-axis. Okay, as you're going towards the sea, inside the sea, your pressure is increasing. You're going 70, 80, 90, 100, the pressure will increase. So you have to see what things are above you. If there are less things above you, the pressure will be less. If there are more things above you, the pressure will be definitely more. Okay. So atmospheric pressure depends on the height. That is how much above it is from the sea level, and it will also depend and it is same in all the directions. Okay. Next. Where do we use atmospheric pressure? We use it in pistons. In your pitchkaris you're using air pressure, correct? Even in your vacuum cleaner, what concept you're using it, using air, you're you're doing the suction force.
Ma'am,
Okay.
when we use
The
a
straw,
syringe, ma'am, when we use a
yes,
syringe,
syringe also. Yes, that is also air pressure. Okay. Or if supposing you are using straw, with straw you're picking up something, that is also your air pressure. Okay, so using atmospheric pressure is what you are using. A lot of instruments are made nowadays. Okay, next. This is exactly how the syringe will work. If you pull the piston up, okay, so your the pressure is reducing. We did not pressure volume. So when you pull the piston up, the pressure is reducing, so the volume is increasing. Because the volume is increasing, the pull of that volume increasing will pull the water inside it. Exactly like how your pitchkaris work in your holi. Okay, when you pull it, you're reducing the pressure, you're increasing the volume. So in that volume, your entire water will fill up. Okay, when you push it down, you're increasing the pressure. So because you're increasing the pressure, the water will flow out, and that also will flow out with the pressure. Okay, next. Even this drinking of straw, that will also become by pressure. Okay, so as and when you're increasing the pressure in your mouth, the straw is the water is getting inside. So when you are increasing the pressure, you are sucking it, you're creating that air pressure. Because of that air pressure, the water is getting into the liquid and it is being pulled up. Okay, next.
ma'am, ma'am, what if there's a pressure
Yes,
that is more powerful than the atmospheric pressure?
atmospheric pressure is not powerful at all. There are many pressures more powerful than that.
No, ma'am, while the straw, while sucking the straw,
Hmm.
is there
like what happens when the pressure is more powerful than the atmospheric pressure, or like more?
Not being able to get your question though. Means when you're drinking straw, you're asking,
Ma'am,
or you
see,
just in
like
general
when
you're
we,
asking.
no, what I'm trying to say is, like when you suck it in straw, the pressure you apply is less than the atmospheric pressure, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So what is, like the pressure is more than the atmospheric pressure?
Then it will not come in your straw. Then it will blow
Okay,
out
ma'am.
of the straw. So you're creating unbalanced force, right? So wherever the unbalanced force is more, the thing will move there. So if you're saying your atmospheric pressure is less, and because of that, the water is being sucked in your straw. If supposing if you, when you were sucking, the pressure out there was more, then it will not come only in your straw. It will move out of the straw. It will throw it out like a fountain. Okay. Next. Okay. You can do this experiment. You need a flat glass. Okay. Fill it completely with water. Okay. Now you have to take a flat cardboard, or these postcards which come, some flat material, and just put it on it. Okay. Now you have to invert the glass. The minute you invert the glass, you will realize that the water will not come down. The cardboard will be stuck in that place. Why? It is because of the atmospheric pressure. The atmospheric pressure is acting from below. We said no, atmospheric pressure acts on all directions. The atmospheric pressure is acting from below, and it is balancing the weight of the water which is there. So up till a point,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes,
Ma'am, my connection was interrupted, so I had to leave for 2-3 minutes. So, ma'am, what just happened?
you can see it again in the whole presentation. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So if supposing you do this experiment, please send us a video of it, and please do it near the basin only, or do it near the in the bathroom only, so that nothing will get wet in your room. Take a glass, fill it with water, put a cardboard sheet, you know, um, this cardboard, a little bit thicker cardboard sheet on it, and then invert the glass. So because of the pressure that is being created by the atmosphere from below, it will push the cardboard up. That will balance the weight of the water, and so it will not come down. Okay. So this is an example of your inverted glass and how the atmospheric pressure is acting on it. Okay. Next. Okay. 1 second. Swapna, do we need to continue now? It's already quarter to 12. Should we do it next time? Because it's still a lot more and it will take time to explain.
So, yeah, so probably what we can do is we can keep liquid pressure on hold and we continue it in the next Saturday's class. So, liquid pressure and friction, we will do it in the next class.
Yeah, because after liquid pressure, there is hydraulics also. And that will
Yeah,
take
yeah,
time to explain.
correct, correct.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So so pressure. Uh, Today's class we did force. What is force?